So I hope you all enjoyed a good lunch, sponsored by our birthday boy, Junfa. Okay, so I just wanted to point out on the wall there, this is a Chinese depiction of Amitabha in the center. Okay, on Amitabha's left, in other words, on the right, as we look at Amitabha, is Kuan Yin, who's the Bodhisattva compassion. In Tibetan Buddhism, called Chenrezig, Sanskrit name is Avalokiteshvara, but in all the different countries, really known as her speciality or his speciality is compassion. And then on the other side, wearing the long blue, is Maha. Tell me how to pronounce the name. I can never do it. It's a name I've never been able to pronounce or remember. Maybe take out your phones and look it up. Yeah. Here it is. Mahasamaprapta. Okay, so that's that bodhisattva. Yeah. Mahasamaprapta. Mahasamaprapta. Okay. What's interesting is in the Tibetan tradition, it becomes Vajrapani. Yeah, and Vajrapani in the Tibetan tradition has a peaceful manifestation, but very often is shown as a very fierce deity. You know, here Mahasamaprapta is quite peaceful. So those are said to be two of the chief bodhisattvas in Amitabha's Pure Land. And like I said, one of the reasons this practice is popular is because people think that going to the Pure Land is, well, it really depends on people's motivation. Some people, I want to go to the Pure Land simply because everybody says it's really nice and comfortable there. That's not a good motivation. Okay, for a spiritual practitioner, just wanting to be reborn in a nice, comfortable place, it's better than being born in an unfortunate realm. But, we're trying to go beyond this idea of me, I, my, and mine. Okay, so to have a much more expansive motivation for seeking rebirth there. And so, for the masters, if when they look and see that people are just praying to be born there because it's comfortable, as the great masters, and I think probably Amitabha himself, are kind of disappointed because they want people to have a bodhicitta motivation, not just an ordinary one. But if you have the correct motivation, then being born in Sukhavati is really advantageous because there's many great teachers, Amitabha, plus they say Nagarjuna, who's one of the great pandits who explain the nature of reality. They say that he's born there and several others. And so wanting to be born in a place where there's many good teachers that's quite virtuous, and that's very important because who you choose as your teachers is going, very often it will determine what path you follow and, of course, what kind of result you get from following that path. Sorry, my voice is getting a little hoarse. So for the people who have developed an understanding of the Buddhist worldview, yeah, and want to develop the qualities and follow the path that the Buddha described, then there's many benefits of being born in Amitabha's Pure Land. Yeah. What else to say? Yeah, they say that all the conditions around you are very suitable for spiritual practice. So, for example, when the wind blows through the leaves of the trees, it's the sound of impermanence. It makes you think of the impermanence of all conditioned phenomena. And realizing impermanence is something very important on the Buddhist path, because all the objects that we get attached to, all the things that we get distracted by, are all things that arise and pass away. They don't last forever. So our attachment to them, our expectation that they will bring us lasting happiness, all of this is let down. Yeah. It's a false refuge, because external objects that are changing moment by moment cannot provide us with lasting happiness. Yeah, so being in a place where things, just automatically you're reminded of the transient nature of phenomena is very helpful to your practice. Yeah. So there's things like that, in Amitabha's Pure Land. And it's also very helpful to us in our own lives. Even though we may not be in Amitabha's Pure Land right now, to learn to see whatever conditions we are in a Dharma way. And if we can see things in a Dharma way, then things that used to be adversities to the path become things that help you progress along the path. Okay, and this is also one of the skills, I think, of the way the Buddha taught. Is he taught us how to transform adversity and suffering into the path to full awakening. Because usually when we face adversity and suffering, what do? Yeah, we either collapse and feel sorry for ourselves, or we get angry. Yeah, and neither one of those responses or mental attitudes actually solves our problem, and in fact actually makes us more unhappy and depressed. But the Buddha taught, for example, that when you're sick, to, instead of, oh, I'm sick, I'm gonna die, to say, actually, the primary cause of this is negative karma that I've created in past lives. So if I've done harmful actions to other living beings in the past, why am I so surprised that I get sick now? It's just cause and effect. I created the cause by harming others. Now I'm experiencing the effect by being sick. And then, to think, actually, that karma from having harmed others in a previous life could have ripened in an unfortunate rebirth for a long, 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 long time. But instead, it ripens in me getting sick right now. So actually, that's good, because that karma is ripening, it's finishing, it won't obscure my mind anymore. And the suffering I'm experiencing right now is actually a lot less than if that same karma had ripened in me having a lower rebirth. Okay, so then you think it's like, well, I created the cause for my own misery. This is a small ripening compared to what it could have been. And so then you feel more relaxed about your illness. And, yeah, I can handle this. It's painful, but I can handle it. And actually, I'm quite happy because this is helping to purify my mind. Okay, this does not mean that we cause ourselves suffering. Okay, it does not mean we cause ourselves suffering to purify karma. No, causing yourself suffering is, that's ridiculous, isn't it? This is if suffering comes to you, how to handle it. Okay, so I'll give you an example. When I had, when I was quite new to Buddhism, I was at a Kapan monastery in Nepal, and I got hepatitis. Okay, Hep A. So that's the hep that comes from dirty vegetables and fruits, things that weren't washed properly. And I was so weak. It's like I was just lying on this wooden floor, and I could barely move. And going to the bathroom was like climbing Mount Everest, because the bathrooms were a short walk away, but when you're very sick, that distance becomes quite long. Yeah, and it was a little bit dangerous going to the bathroom because it was a big pit with 2 boards across and some straw mats on the side. And you had to negotiate to put your feet exactly on those 2 boards. Because if you didn't, you would wind up in the pit with all the poo. Okay, so this was the situation I was in. And being quite ordinary in my way of thinking, just feeling bad and unhappy. And then somebody came in my room and gave me this very small book called The Wheel of Sharp Weapons. And it was a commentary by Geshe Nawandarge on a text that talked about karma and how the results that we experience now are due to actions that we created in the past. So I started reading the book, and I come to this verse that says something to the effect of, if you're ill and your body is racked by pain, this is like the wheel of sharp weapons returning. In other words, like a boomerang returning. Yeah. In the past, you harmed others' bodies, and so now that's coming back and you're experiencing illness. And I read that verse and I went, oh, that's talking about me. Yeah, the result being ill, being, uncomfortable and so on with the illness. The principal cause is not the cook in the kitchen and the little monks who didn't wash the food properly. They were the cooperative conditions, but the principal cause was my own negative actions. And thinking like that really helped me be calm and not be so upset about being ill. It was like, I created the cause, I accept the result. I have to be responsible. Yeah. And so that was quite helpful, and it really changed my attitude, because before that, I had always thought I should abandon negative actions, but I didn't really have conviction that my actions had an ethical dimension and would ripen in my own happiness or suffering. But when I read that verse, and it was so obviously talking about my present experience, I had to really sit and think about this and accept, yeah, it's nobody else's fault. Yeah, they may be the cooperative condition, but I have to be responsible and accept the results of my own actions. And in this case, my actions were ones that were harmful to others. And so I'm sick. Yeah. And like I said, what that did is it made my mind much more peaceful. And when your mind is more peaceful, then you don't get angry about being sick. So it actually saves you from creating more negative karma that will produce more suffering. Because so often when we're sick or we have some miserable situation, we get angry, we blame people, we complain, we create more negativity for more of the above. Yeah, but when we're able to abstain from that, then, you come out of the situation saying, that was difficult, but I learned something really important from it. And I think learning from our life, learning from our mistakes is crucial. Yeah. If we go through our lives, and we all make mistakes and bad decisions, but if all we do is blame other people or blame the government or blame the political enemy or blame the dog next door, if all we do is say, the world is unfair to me and other people are the ones causing me suffering, then we're just going to continue having bad experiences. Yeah. And other people certainly aren't going to like being around us because all we do is bellyache. Yeah. So, whereas on the other hand, if we see this in a Dharma way, in accord with the Buddhist worldview, then it has some meaning, it has some purpose, it can help us on the path. And then everything that we experience becomes a situation that we grow from, that we can become better people because of having gone through those situations. So if you think of a really bad situation that you've experienced, yeah, it hasn't killed you, you're still alive. And did you learn something important from that experience? Yeah. So that's the thing. If we can look back on our life and learn from our mistakes, then there's always a feeling of buoyancy in our life. We're progressing, we're learning. If we don't learn from our mistakes because all we do is say, I have no responsibility, it's somebody else's fault, then we just accumulate more and more negative karma and more unhappiness and depression in our own mind. Okay, so this is up to us on how we think and if we train our mind to think in another way. Yeah. Someone made a comment last night about some of our unhappiness coming because of expectations. Yeah, and boy, that is true. We develop all sorts of expectations of another person and how they're going to be and what the future's going to be like and the relationship's going to be like and da 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 da. We have a whole image, a whole visualization of this marvelous things that's going to happen. Did we ever check out with the other people involved in it, that they're on board to do all the things that we're expecting them to do? Did we ever check out, and see if all the things that we want are actually within the realm of reality? Yeah. So you see here, this is where our disturbing thoughts really kidnap us and limit our growth. And then we, of course, become very bitter. And sometimes we see elderly people who are bent over. So yes, arthritis does that, but I think sometimes when you just accumulate negativity in your life and you don't know how to forgive, you don't know how to learn from your own mistakes, then spiritually, emotionally, you get bent over. So Amitabha's Pure Land is a land where, we're able to really see the effects of our actions, also to see the effects of our virtuous actions and the happiness and good situations that they bring, and then grow and progress. Okay, so that's one of the reasons to be born there. I was thinking I wasn't going to talk a lot right now in this session because it's after lunch. And we all know after lunch, you get a little groggy. So there is a practice that we also do that involves Amitabha Buddha, and it's called serpentine walking. And you may have seen this, those of you who've been to Chinese temples, where we chant Namo Amitabha. Namo means I pay homage, I respect, I take refuge, and make offerings in Amitabha Buddha. So you chant Namo Amitabha, but you walk. So it's not just sitting, in pretzel position, but you're up and walking, and you walk in lines. So Venerable her. Yeah. You see, I'm 73. I'm allowed to do this. Venerable Dongju, will explain how to do it. And then, we will do the chanting together. And when you're walking, follow the person in front of you at a respectful distance, not right up against them, but not far back, okay? And kind of let your mind relax into chanting Namo Amitabha. And Amitabha is Amitabha Buddha. And really picture that you are in Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. And as you're walking, you're leading all the other living beings to be reborn there and to see Amitabha's good qualities and to want to develop them yourself.